Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you all for coming today to AMIA's Digital Asset Symposium and one of AMIA's 4 flagship events. My name is Dennis Doros, and I am the co-founder of Milestone Film and Video, and more importantly for today, the president of the Association of Moving Image Archivists. AMIA is the largest organization in the world dedicated to the preservation and use of the moving image. We are nearly 1,000 members from over 30 countries. I've been a member for over 20 years, and now my wife and son are also members. It's that good. We hope you all be able to come to the Los Angeles Real Thing on August 23rd through 25th, the projection workshop in Chicago, which is announced for the last week of August, and our annual conference this year in Portland on November 28th through December 1st. We will all be there, the Doros family. AMIA is the place for ideas, questions, and solutions. This is the thank you part of the program. It will go all up here after this, but this is the important part. I'd like to thank our Preservation Circle sponsors, Iron Mountain and HGST, our gold sponsor, Protect Vaults, our silver sponsors, Quantum and Veritone, our bronze sponsors, Allied Vaughan, Chesapeake Systems, and NBC Universal Studio Posts, and everybody else who has contributed to AMIA. I also want to thank AMIA's incredible, amazing staff, Laura Rooney, Beverly Graham, and Christina Kersels, who just celebrated her 15th anniversary at the office, and our staff of volunteers today, who are wonderful, and some of them are from Milestone. I want to thank Christine Peirce and Sally Hubbard, who spent many, many hours helping to program this event. We also want a really special thanks to the Museum of Modern Arts, Raj Roy, the incredible Katie Traynor, the wonderful Carson Parrish, and their team of projectionists and technicians who donated this amazing historic space and helped make this day special. And now I want to introduce you to Nick Gold, the lead technologist to Chesapeake Systems. Congratulations on the promotions. Who is the curator of today's event. We will all really benefit and enjoy today because of his dedication over the past 6 months to create a program of diverse knowledge and experiences. I want to thank him for our new friendship. We've become close over the last few months, and his incredible work ethic that will make this a very wonderful day for all of you. So Nick, come on up.
I always have to lower the microphone a tad. I want to thank everyone for coming today. I know it can be difficult to get out for an event like this, from your work commitments. I obviously want to extend my thanks as well to our sponsors and MoMA for this, again, fantastic spot. One of my favorite flourishes is the font of the exit signs. I really enjoy that. So thanks so much for coming. And if you were here last year, I think you know how passionate I can be about this space that we all occupy of preserving information, preserving media, and the stories of our very interesting age in which we find ourselves. It's been a pretty interesting year or so, 13 months since last year's DAS. And I think we're all confronted on essentially a daily basis these days the importance of truth and preserving information and telling clear and accurate stories and narratives with the information that we are here to preserve and protect. Again, I had a lot of strange ideas sort of planted in my head as a youngster, and that explains some of my strangeness. And I think even last year I mentioned my favorite author is William Gibson, who kind of coined the term cyberspace. He's always written about the future that's right around the corner. And I've been thinking a lot, really, for a while now, even years, about some of the notions he planted in my head that I think are just very relevant for us to think about in our roles. In the very notion of coming up with this idea of a virtual reality cyberspace and a visual representation of complex data sets. Obviously he started my thinking along those lines when I was exposed to that notion of VR cyberspace as a 14 or 15-year-old. But that notion of finding a shape in information and understanding the shape of a data set was something that he actually embedded throughout many of his works. He had a character in his original trilogy who was literally obsessed with the idea of finding the shape of the internet or cyberspace. What is the shape of the totality of that data set, and what might that tell that character about the nature of the world he occupied? This notion continued to run through his work. He had another character in one of his other trilogies who had been experimented on as a young child, was exposed to some kind of experimental medication that gave him the ability, again, to find pattern and see emerging patterns in complex data sets. And again, there's other examples of sort of, again, this visualization or ascribing a shape to information that really got me thinking. And I've thought a lot about how that applies to the work that we all do. Having gone to many a conference around digital asset management over many years now, one of our favorite things that we like to talk about is metadata. Metadata. I have multiple badges at home that say, I love metadata. And it's a great thing. And one of the things it allows us to do is to search for things. We know that. And a lot of conversations with our clients at Chesapeake and industry colleagues, when we talk about metadata and again, having that set of values that relate back to the media that we work with, search is one of the things that we focus on. How do we make it more efficient to find things, not to lose things? But one of the ideas that I think we still are kind of coming to explore in our world as digital media preservationists is that metadata actually has some other, I think even perhaps more interesting use cases. The idea of having sets of data and metadata that we can draw shapes in to come to a better understanding of the data set that we are preserving is really where I think a lot of our energies are going to be put over the coming years. This notion of data analytics, whether it's human analytics and applying our minds to looking at the shape of the data that we are working with or how that intersects with other people's data sets, that is really the untapped utility of having all of this metadata about the information we work with. Again, it allows us to draw more accurate shapes. And again, I think we all know that with digital media, especially right now, our ability to tell accurate stories and find truths in these data sets is exceptionally important because it's very easy for people to kind of pull other shapes out of it sometimes, and we know that those aren't always as accurate. So this notion of putting our data to use and breathing life into it through analytical approaches and finding, again, the shape and the narrative that the data tells us, which sometimes is often very surprising, is something that we're, again, all going to be able to do more of using some of the tools that are coming online. So there's a lot still for us to learn about how we can put that full set of data to use to tell compelling, truthful stories. I had a real great opportunity to, in a very personal way, see how putting a shape to materials, media, can really make a very visceral impact when I, a couple months ago, was able to check out the David Bowie Is exhibit at the Brooklyn Museum, which, if you're even a passing fan of David Bowie, I heartily recommend you check it out for the last month or so that it's there. I've been a David Bowie fan since I was a little kid. I imagine it was the movie Labyrinth that I first saw him in, which again probably scarred me in some interesting ways. But having followed his music for so many years, and he's obviously was a very unique artist, had a vision, and I thought I knew the man, but there was nothing I couldn't have even expected what my gut response to seeing so many of the creative materials from his life and those of others that he collaborated with and worked with when put to such a visceral shape in that kind of a presentation. I mean, it was literally an emotional response because you have a lot of multimedia that's part of the exhibit, you have all of these supporting materials. Again, there was not only good stuff, but the way that the metadata behind his collection of artistic materials was assembled allows one to draw a shape from it that frankly went beyond even having been a fan of his music for many years. So my brother is coming into the city this weekend. I'm going to take him. Bowie had been a big impression on him. So this ability to draw shapes out of our data sets can have a major, major impact on the people that we work with, the people we serve, I think a lot of today's presentations hopefully bring this to light, that again, we can really breathe life into what we're preserving here. Our first speakers today, I'm very glad we're able to join, are going to be presenting us with an interesting notion about, again, how we think of the metadata and information that surrounds the collections that we work with. And understanding that there's essentially a non-dual way of looking at metadata and information, that it's not always one or the other. Reality is much more complex. So I will let them continue. I'd again like to thank all of the speakers today. I really hope you guys enjoy the program as much as I know I will. So with that, I will hand it off to Laura Arroyo and Chris Welty, who are really going to be talking today about the nature of truth itself and how we can find the most accurate shape in information possible. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming today. And again, I really hope you enjoyed the program.